Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Flash for the Win. Welcome back to another StarCastTV commentary. Today's game is going to be played between Killer and Mighty. This will be a best of 3 series between the two players. A little bit of an introduction to these two players. Killer, we all know here, spawning as the red Zerg on Circuit Breaker, bottom right-hand position. We all know as the almost protege to Jaedong back in the Kespa era, playing on Hua Shang'a's. Very aggressive Zerg player, very well known for playing that very aggressive style. Never really succeeded too much in the individual leagues. I think his best finish ever was maybe a round of 8 in some obscure MSL. But he was always a solid pro league player that was, you know, respectable. And on this side we have the blue Protoss. It's going to be Mighty, who is a amateur player. And Mighty's interesting. I've been watching some of his games. His current claim to fame has been second place at the Caster Muse Star League in Season 2, placing second to Saskri. But his path to the finals was actually pretty solid. He was fairly good. His game showed a lot of promise in his gameplay, very aggressive style that he has, and overall just a good player that shows promise with his play. Obviously a lot of inexperienced mistakes that I felt that he had made in his series against Saskri, which inevitably cost him a 4-0. But he went against players like Sack, very good player there. I think other previous professionals in that tournament were players like Haya, semi-amateur pro Bishop was in that series. I know just a bunch of really good names were in that tournament, and he placed second. So it's a very good showing for him. We're seeing that aggressive style play out right here with this gateway first strategy against Zerg. And the first zealot's already coming out. And you also got the first scout off, which is very important. Meanwhile, on the other side of the map, Killer has gone for the 12 hatch 11 pool, it looks like. And he's saving up Larva right here for the Zerglings because he sees the initial zealot walking across the map. And behind this, he is most likely banking up minerals right now just to make sure that he's able to get that relatively quick nexus. And also gas stealing here against the Zerg, making sure that Zerg cannot get that early Zergling speed out. And now he cancels the assimilator and moving his probe over to go ahead and take that natural expansion. But we're going to see how much damage he's able to get with the Zealot. Obviously, Zerglings are on the way right here. 1 Zergling there, and then 3 Zergling eggs over here as well. Now, he doesn't want to lose his probe. Probe already down to 3 HP. This is actually really bad here. The probe is actually very important to this strategy because the Zealot will be able to 2-shot Zerglings with a probe shot to damage Zerglings. Now, the Zealot is going to be trapped down here. Ooh, moving the Zealot outside of the minerals was not good for him because now the Zerglings were able to get a much better surround onto the Zealot. So this Zealot is not long for this world. Meanwhile, Killer going ahead and taking this third base. And this Zealot pressure has done absolutely nothing for Mighty. And now grabbing 2 Zealots over here, starting up the Forge as well. And he will most likely be able to bank up some minerals for his cannon and then throw down his assimilator. But again, so some of the issues with this gateway is usually you would say, oh, gateway first, maybe he can get his tech a little bit faster. But in reality, now that he's got to play very defensive against this horde of Zerglings that are coming across the map, he's going to have to play very defensively and not able to pick up that assimilator because he needs to spend more money into getting these cannons up. So now the assimilator has been started. We see that, interestingly enough, Killer has gotten his extractor at his natural instead of at his main base, and he's opted for Zergling speed because, as you can see here, Zergling speed is being started. He's not mining any more gas, and he's not going to any layer tech. So he looks like he wants to end this game maybe as fast as possible, get a break in here, realizing that Mighty's tech is going to be behind. But you know, it seems very interesting that he wouldn't try to abuse it because, I mean, this wall is very solid. Now, obviously, the cannon's up. He could be producing more Zerglings behind this, and maybe that's what he's trying to pressure here, is just saying, oh, you better be careful. I'm going to have a lot more Zerglings behind this, and you can't move out. But Mighty here, again, a very aggressive playstyle, is just going to go ahead and move out here anyways. He's got 5 Zealots here, a pretty solid amount to pressure. He might try to be pressuring to force a Sun Colony at the front here of the natural, or even at the third base, but instead, Killer has just decided to go for more Zerglings. He's, as you see, making many more Zergling eggs and not really building any more drones. He just wants to make sure that he has a very mobile defense force. Meanwhile, I got a +1 attack upgrade started here for Protoss, as well as the Cybernetics core. And we've seen actually a different style that Protoss have been going for, which is +1 armor instead of +1 weapons. And this is usually to deal with a potential 3-hatch Hydra push, because they're saying, well, weapons isn't really going to do much to help us defend against Hydra busts, whereas armor is going to help our Zealots stay up longer and buy us more time for our storms and our Zealot speed to be able to be finished. And so that's an interesting idea that Protoss have gone for. Instead, we see the +1 weapons upgrade instead. So this is going for the more standard conventional style. Meanwhile, Stargate being built here as well. 2 gateways being placed. No Citadel just yet. Okay, there's a Citadel, I was about to say. Citadel just now being placed. So he will be going for a very big Zealot timing, it looks like, because these 2 gateways are much earlier than normal. Actually, he's going to go for a 4th and a 5th gateway. So these gateways are way faster than you would normally see. Normally, you would see these gateways go down maybe after the Stargate has been finished up and he's gotten some vision. Meanwhile, on the other side of the map, no Spire, it looks like, from our Zerg player. Yes, he's gone for a 5-hatch before layer. This is a very interesting strategy coming out from Killer. He's going to completely skip on the Spire. No Scourge are going to be made. And I think that one of the reasons behind this is that, well, I know that his tech is going to be delayed. This gas was for sure going to be late because of the way that Mighty had played out this early game, getting for the gateway first and then realizing, oh wow, my opponent's making a lot of Zerglings. I can't build this assimilator as fast as I would like to. And so instead, he's saying, well, I don't need to get a Spire, I don't need to get Mutas, or I don't need to get Scourge. I just need to be able to combat this big Zealot timing here with a lot of Hydralisks. And that's exactly what he's going for. He's going for the missile attack upgrade first with these Hydras for the Evolution Chamber, as we can see, as well as the Hydra Speed. And he's currently droning up here to make sure that when this attack pushes out, he's going to have enough larva production and income to be able to continue to make those Hydralisks coming out. And I mean, this is going to be a very scary push. It's a 5-gateway mass Zealot attack. His +1 is going to line up with his leg upgrades coming out here probably around the 8-minute mark. And this is going to be a very scary push coming out. And this is something that Protoss I've been trying to do in order to slow down the Zerg, because Zergs, I mean, when you come into these late game situations, they are able to run over Protoss, and this is able to slow down the Zerg. And this is the moment where Killer should realize something is wrong here. There's way too many Zealots out on the map for this to be a standard timing push. And he's going to really have to start building these Hydras. His Sun colonies, I mean, they're late. The Creep colonies just now started. Mighty's going to be able to get in here, be able to get at least a couple of these drone kills here. Once his next group of Zealots are coming across the map, the leg upgrades are just about to finish. +1 has finished as well. There's only one Sun colony here. No Sun colonies at the natural, so this is just going to be a pure Zergling Hydra's defense. Zealot legs have finished. He's able to get in here with a decent concave onto these Hydras here at the natural base right now. There's going to be a drone pull coming out here to defend against this, but there's a lot of damage coming out from these Zealots. Now, they might just target down the Hydras, then Hydra speed is finished, but not the Hydra range upgrade. This is actually very crucial. Without the Hydra, then he's actually not able to build any more Hydras coming out here, and these drone Zerglings are getting killed right now. The drones are doing a nice job here blocking for these Hydras, and they've done a very good job of stopping these Zealots from getting atop the Hydras. But a lot of drones have gone down. The Zealots have been able to kill off a lot of these drones, and the pressure here from Mighty has been very good. Again, no more Hydra Den right now, so he's had to rebuild it here and now be forced to build these inefficient Zerglings, which have no carapace upgrade, which means they get 2-shot by these Zealots. This has been a very good push here from Mighty to really stall out this push, stall out the economy, I should say, from Killer. Finally, now the attack upgrade being restarted here from Killer. That was another important thing, is that he was not able to get that attack upgrade finished. And so these Zealots are still able to come in here potentially and get some more pressure down. As we can see, Zealots being rallied across the map. Overlord speed having been finished, but that's not very useful. Now, there is a lot of Zerglings and a lot of Hydras out here, and with this amount of Hydras and Zerglings, I don't think that Mighty is going to be able to continue pushing here until he's able to get Storm, because now Zerg is reaching that breaking point where he's saying, oh, I'm going to have way too many units for you to deal with, even if you do have that upgrade advantage. No +2 being started here from Mighty, instead just going straight into Storm upgrade. And he's just doing a very good job here. Killer is now pushing back the pressure a reasonable amount. You know, he's got a couple sun colonies here to defend, help him defend. He's really controlling these bridges very well. And now these Zealots are coming in here, and he's got to be very careful that he doesn't get surrounded. He doesn't realize that these Zerglings are below him. And if he were to push down here into this third base, now he's a chance to get surrounded. But again, there's so many Zealots here. And without +1 carapace, these Zerglings are just not able to really deal with these Zealots because they just get two-shot. And now again, the Zealots are going to run up here into this base. There's so many Hydras to defend, but the Zerglings aren't here to help defend here, right? The Zerglings are a little late to defend. Another drone pull is being forced here to get across the line and stop these Zealots from getting top the Hydras. And now he's done a nice job here, a fairly good drone drill to stop these Zealots from getting atop the Hydras, and these Zealots are once again going to get pushed back. So Mighty at this point has to really consider, what am I really doing with this push anymore? Am I getting enough damage done here compared to the amount of resources that I'm investing into these pushes? And now he's finally starting that +2 weapons. Is he going to be getting his third base? And this is something that I was going to refer to as, should he now focus more on the economic side of the game rather than continue to try to pressure? Because it seems like that Killer has now done a good enough job of stabilizing in this game against this pressure, and he's also realized that because he only made one Corsair from the Stargate, now he can transition into these Mutas, and Mutas are going to be easily able to shove this force back, and there's nothing that Mighty can do at this moment. And Mighty, this third base actually will also be potentially delayed if these Mutas head over there to deny it, because there's no anti-air right now for Mighty. He doesn't have any Dragoons, he doesn't have any Archons being built. He's got a couple of High Templar being formed right now, if we can find them. Yeah, they're just kind of hide back in the base and then get sniped by Mutas. But here come the Mutas, and there's only one cannon here that just finished, so these Mutas are actually able to get in here and do quite a bit of damage. Now that was a decent storm there, damaging a lot of these Mutas. But now there is no more storm. The one High Templar here is still 10 energy away, and it's going to get sniped by these Mutas. So there's no anti-air here inside the base, and Mighty is going to have to tap out. Killer is going to end up winning this game. And again, I think that's something of the inexperience of Mighty that is showing, is that once he was able to get a lot of those drone kills really disrupt Killer's economy, I feel like he should have just pulled back and said, okay, I've done enough damage. I don't need to do anything more to continue my pressure. I should be sitting back, maybe taking a third base myself, and gearing up for a potential counterattack from my Zerg opponent. Instead, he continued to push forward with Zealous, trying to continue to go forward, and it didn't pay off for him. So I think, again, that's something the experience that might have shown here. And again, that's something that happened with Soma as well in his series against Light. Soma was actually winning in a couple of those games against Light, but ended up throwing because he was not able to really correctly identify the proper response and the things that he should be looking for in that matchup. But anyways, we're going to have the game number 2 here on Neo Sylphid, again with Killer being up 1-0 in this best of 3. Killer's going to be the brown Zerg spawning up here at the 12 o'clock position, Mighty as the pink Protoss spawning here at the 8 o'clock position. And we're just going to see if Mighty is going to go for another aggressive build here. I mean, again, last game, he really enjoys these gateway first style of builds. Really wants to put that pressure on the Zerg player. Doesn't want him to just be able to go 12 hatch and freely drone up his economy. And we're going to see once again that the pylon is being built here at the front, and the probe is returning to go mine. So this is very indicative of that gateway first build. Normally, when you see a forge first, the probe will go out and scout, make sure that he can know exactly what the Zerg is, know exactly what kind of build the Zerg is doing, so that when he builds the forge, he knows, do I make Nexus first after forge, or can I even get away with Nexus first before forge, or do I have to make a cannon before Nexus? Things like that. But because he doesn't really care about that, he just wants to build a gateway. Now, this is also interesting that he has not decided to just yet build that gateway on 10 supply, so it is also indicative that he might be going for a 12 Nexus strategy. I think that Killer will go for a 12 hatchery, and that's exactly what Killer's going for actually. So this will be a very economic game from both players. Killer's going to be taking his natural expansion here on 12, and on the other side of the map, Mighty is opting for a Nexus first, no gateway being built yet. Killer will be throwing down a spawning pool here at 11 as well. And we're going to see Mighty if he opts for Forge or Gateway first, and usually, yes, it is going to be the Forge right after the Nexus instead of the Gateway. Can't be that greedy in order to play this style. But here comes the probe, nicely done, getting that first scout, very important. And he's going to be very happy when he sees this 12 hatchery build, because he knows that now he can't really get punished for this 12 next. He's not even going to have to pull probes off the line or anything to deal with this. And there it is, sees the 12 hatch, sees this drone coming out here as well. And yeah, he doesn't even need to build a cannon once he sees this 12 hatch. He just goes straight into a gateway first and then build a cannon behind it. Killer opting for this third hatchery at the mineral only base. Now we've seen this a lot from Zergs more often, is instead of playing that turtle style where you get the third and fourth base at the other mains, that Zergs have opted more for these closer-ish bases. They just don't think that defending against these more aggressive zealot builds has been fundamentally sound when you take these bases so far across the map from each other. Assembly area is going to finish now. Cybernetics core will follow up soon. And looks like he's just not sending probes just yet. Wants probably a couple extra minerals before he builds a Cybernetics core. Yeah, there it is. He was a little bit low on minerals. Wanted to make sure that instead of sending altered probes into gas immediately, that he was able to build up a little bit more of a mineral count. Now back in the base for our Zerg player. He's got a couple Zerglings here trying to kill this probe, deny any kind of scouting. And meanwhile, the layer has now started at the natural, and I don't think that Mighty has necessarily seen it, which is why he's trying to keep this probe in here for as long as possible. He has not seen the layer start at the main hatchery, and he also is deciding not to go into the natural. I think that's a mistake. There you go. Now he's going to see the hatchery is about halfway done, or the layer's halfway done, I should say. But this isn't indicative that this is just going to be a standard and safe game, because remember, Zergs are very, very tricky with their builds, and that they have a lot of ways of getting around your scout. Just because you start the layer doesn't mean you're going to go for a standard game. We've seen a lot of builds such as the 3-hatch layer Hydra Den, where you go into either fast lurkers or Hydra drops. That's always a possibility. But we don't see a Hydra Den coming up. Actually, we do see the Hydra Den. Here it is at the main. So again, we could potentially see something like fast lurkers, Hydra drops. And we see the hatchery coming out here. On the other side of the map, we're going to see a more standard game. Again, from a 12 Nexus, usually you will see a standard game with the +1 air weapons and the Stargate. Meanwhile, on the other side of the map, Killer is just going to want a drone. He's very content to drone right here. Doesn't want to overmake units right now. He's got Zergling speed as well to help deny any kind of probe scout that's going to be coming out from Mighty. And Mighty's game even cutting a few zealots right now to make sure that he can get all of this infrastructure up. So we see Citadel of Adun gateway being placed as well. As we can see, the Overlord speed and the Hydra speed are both being started for Killer. Just a couple of Hydras right now to ward away this initial Corsair. And this Corsair's going to get in here and see, okay, Hydra Den lair, he doesn't have a Spire. Yep, scouts the main base, sees no Spire. On the other side of the map, we're going to be seeing a transition into a 5-hatch Hydra, so it looks like not necessarily any kind of aggressive style from Killer, even though he went for this Hydra Den first, right after the layer, instead of getting hatcheries before the Hydra Den. I guess he was just scared of the Corsair timing. And meanwhile, Mighty, once again, just doing the standard Protoss things, getting speed leg upgrades as well as his Temple Archives. And it looks like he's canceled his +1 air weapons. He's still building Corsairs. But he might stop at, 3 Corsairs. Usually 3 is a nice number. 3, 4, 5 Corsairs is nice without having +1. Because you can still pressure Overlords, you can still get a reasonable amount of scouting information. But you're not committed to getting all of those gas-intensive upgrades, such as the +1 and, building 4, 5, 6 Corsairs. And yes, he is stopping at 3. Getting that Storm upgrade as well. Realizing that if there's no Metas, if there's no Spire, I don't really need to get +1 air weapons. Now, there are some builds that say I'm going to get +1 air weapons and be really annoying to your Overlords, but I don't think that's the strategy necessarily that Mighty's going to be going for. I think that he wants to make it build enough Corsairs to be able to stop any kind of Overlord drop. And I think that's exactly what he's doing here, which is why he's building a couple more Corsairs. Now he's building a 4th Corsair, ended up losing one, which is unfortunate. But he hasn't stopped Corsair production, but he's also not getting the +1 air weapons. So I think he's hedging his bets right now to say, listen, I don't want to overproduce. And meanwhile, we see that the Hydras, all the upgrades have finished right now. He's just chipping away at the front. Zealots have gotten their +1 upgrade, so even if the forge goes down, it's not going to matter too much. And he might have to look to build a second forge in his main base if the first forge at the front goes down. And yeah, there it is. The second forge is being built right now. He wants to make sure that his upgrades are going to keep in line with the Zerg. That's one of the saving graces of Protoss in this early to mid game, is that the upgrades are really the only thing that keeps Protoss in the game. Without any upgrades, Zerg units are actually very bad. I mean, 3-hitting Zerglings with Zealots just feels really, really bad. And having your units be very flimsy without any armor upgrades also feels terrible against the massive amount of Hydras that are going to be shooting at you. And there's the +1 armor upgrade there being started here at this forge. Another forge being built here. He's really scared that this first forge is going to be sniped, which is a little strange to me because he hasn't started an upgrade on his second forge here. I feel like if you're going to start an upgrade on one of these two forges, it should be the safer forge. Because if you're going to build this third forge in your main, you might as well start all of your upgrades in the safer area. As we see here, that's exactly what's going to happen. The Hydras are going to start picking up at this forge, the armor gets cancelled, and now we see that the +2, again we started here at the front forge, just started here at the back forge. A little curious play here from Mighty. Maybe he's trying to bait the Hydras into attacking this forge. It could be a potential. But now we see Mighty here going for these lurkers at the front. Very aggressive egg morphing. And he's going to be able to get this nice lurker contain. And there's nothing that Mighty can really do here until the robotics facility finishes. Now he's going to go for a Zealot run-by. And this is very smart. This is a similar style that Protoss want to do against Terran when Terran goes for contain, is that back here at your defense, there's not going to be too much defense. Now obviously there's a bunch of Hydras here that are going to be able to defend. Again, off of this 5-hatch style, there's going to be too many units for Protoss to really be able to get too much damage done. And one lurker here is going to be able to stop this entire force. Nice lurker egg micro there from Killer as well. But these Zealots now are in the middle of the map. They're a little bit in no man's land, but they are going to be able to put a little bit of pressure down and kind of keep Killer honest in saying, listen, if you try to commit too much to your frontal break, I might be able to get in around your third base area where you have no sun colonies and be able to do quite a bit of damage. And that's something that, again, this 5-hatch Hydra style is relying upon, or I should say 6-hatch because he does have 6 hatchery, is that you're not going to be building stacked defenses. You're not going to be building sun colonies. You're going to be relying upon your massive amount of units to be able to hold off any kind of Zealot pressure. So Killer, instead of putting his Hydras here at the front, he's having to force to bring back his Hydras to kind of make sure I need to keep tabs on where Mighty's Zealot count is. Meanwhile, on the other side of the map, Dragoon upgrade has been started, massive amount of Dragoons are being started as well, and Observers are being built to make sure that he can counteract these Lurkers that are out here at the front. And Killer has already saturated his 4th base. Killer's in a great position. Killer's doing an excellent job of making sure that he's expanding behind this pressure and that he is kind of keeping Mighty contained onto these bases. And Mighty, again, he's 1 game behind right now in this series. He really needs to figure out a way to slow down the Zerg. Now, this is a nice job here, sniping this 5th hatchery, stopping it from being built, but he's going to lose all of these Zealots, and now his pressure on the map is gone. Sure, the Lurkers here are being pushed back at the front, but, you know, now Killer knows exactly where the army is. He doesn't need to be worried about some kind of Zealot run-by to his 4th or 5th bases. He's going to be able to send another drone here to take that 5th base here, and he's going to know exactly where the army is for Mighty. And so he's going to be able to take, again, complete map control, maybe play defensively if he wishes, but he doesn't have to really guess where the army of Mighty is going to be. Now, he's playing a defensive posture. All of his units here are back in a defensive area where he can defend, but he's playing a very comfortable game right now. Killer's saying, well, I know he's going to take his 3rd base. I don't need to pressure it. I can just grab this 5th base here as this drone moves across the map, and I'm just going to be able to sit back on my 5-base economy, and if Protoss doesn't try to do something about it, I'm just going to run away with this game with a massive economic advantage. And Killer's already at 150 supply, and this is where Zergs really start to get very scary, is when they hit this 150 supply. Now, Mighty's going to try to get up onto this 5th base here, a couple Lurkers up at the high ground, and there's just not a really good option here for Mighty. I think his best option would be to push up to that high ground expansion, try to get the Dragoons across. There's only 3 Lurkers there, but he would have to get risk getting counterattack. Now, he's doing a good job presenting a united front here with these Storms and these Dragoons to pick off a lot of these units here from Killer. But again, this is just not a position you want to see yourself in as Puras when your opponent is in such a massive supply lead, as you can see in this moment. And now again, the High Templar are getting sniped. The Storms haven't been really dealing as much damage as he would like to. He's being forced to retreat. And the idea is that if Mighty pushes up to this high ground expansion with these 3 lurkers here, well, Killer with this massive amount of Zerglings you can see is just going to surround the army, and he's just going to end up losing his entire army and maybe not even pick up that 5th base. More posturing down here. Mighty's only chance in this game is, as what he's doing, expanding across the map, taking his 4th base, trying to get some kind of economic footholding in this game to make sure that he can continue tech up to better units, Reavers, more upgrades, and Archons. But right now he's sitting on this gateway-based army with High Templar, no Archons in the army because he really needs the Storm right now. And yes, he is at 2 on upgrades, but on the same time the Zerg is at... Well, actually, Killer's upgrades have not been too good. Only +2 on his ranged attack upgrades, which is sufficient at this stage in the game, to be honest with you. I mean, this Lurker defense is doing such a good job of pushing back his opponent. And Hive has been finished as well. Cracklings are halfway done at this point. Defiler Mount has started. No Consume. Consume, there we go, just being started now. And he's got all the evolution chambers in the world to work off of. +1 Carapace being started as well. +3 attack upgrades are also being started. So he is ready to transition into that big Hive tech army where you just go mass Cracklings. A little curious to see that he has not started the +1 attack upgrade. Only got +1 Carapace so far. And I would expect to see a 3rd evolution chamber being started. Although I guess maybe he's waiting for that 4th gas to really be able to launch himself into that 3 evolution chamber game. Although +3 upgrade for the attack, once that gets finished, will be enough. Here comes that big mass Zergling attack here. Cracklings have been finished as well. Storms are going to be damaging to both of his units because when the Zergling's going to top of the Puras army, Storms are going to end up storming his own units with the proximity of the Zerglings. Nice cannot even here at the top of the 5th base. It's really hard for Mighty to play this game. His only chance, again, is to continue to expand. I would expect Mighty to try to take this 5th base up here, or even this 5th base down here, in order to try to, again, maintain some kind of footholding. These Zerglings, crack upgrade Zerglings, are just being such a nuisance getting into the Zerg army and taking out these High Templar. Because again, if the Zerglings are right in the middle of the army and High Templar storm them, well, you're actually dealing more damage to your own army than you are to the Zerglings. Now, again, looking for a push up here up to this 4th base, but again, not a great storm. These Lurkers are in such a great position, and it's so hard to play from this position as Puras once Zerg finds himself in such a nice, easy footholding. And now we see a big counterattack with these Cracklings here coming up, and there's only 4 cannons with 1 pylon. Now, Killer is waiting for a potential commitment of an attack here from Mighty. He wants Mighty to push up to this high ground and then send his Zerglings in, but he's actually got a Defiler that's walked up here. The Storms are here, the Dark Storms are here. Storms are coming down now to try to pick off these Zerglings. The Zerglings are just right-clicked onto this Nexus, try to pick off this Nexus as fast as possible. And it's so hard, man, to defend against crack upgrades with Storm. Now, he has defended it very well. Unfortunately, he's being forced to pull back his army, and again, Puras is just in a defensive position. I mean, Zerg is going to look to get more hatcheries, probably take this base next and these couple of bases next, and he's going to start running away at the game. These crack upgrade Zerglings again, now they don't have melee upgrades, so again, you can see that these Dragoons are not being popped very quickly. If they did have a couple of melee upgrades, this attack would be much more cost efficient, but as it turns out, without +1 attack upgrade, at least on these Zerglings, it's not so good. I mean, especially when Puras is now up to +1 armor, +2 armor about to be finished, and as we can see, Mighty here is doing exactly what he needs to do. Make sure that Zerg cannot continue to expand across the map, continue to accelerate himself across the map. I'm not sure if Zerg has Plague right now, but we do see that +2, +3 is about to finish for ranged upgrades. And I believe that once this Evolution Chamber here is finished with this +3, he's going to start building those melee upgrades. And now finally getting a Zerg Spire as well to make sure that he can use Mutalisk to snipe off these High Templar. Because honestly, High Templar are the only reason why he's going to stay in this game, at least on the defensive front. Because Cracklings, I mean, when you get up to a maxed out supply like this as Zerg, I mean, look how many units that you're going to have. Storm are the only reason that you're going to be able to stay in this game as Puras until you're able to solidify yourself and get Reavers. Again, very open area here that Zerg can try to attack. Nice Plague there onto the Dragoons. Again, these Zerglings are just not that good yet. Killer does need to get those upgrades. He has forgone those +1 attack upgrades on the melee units, And this is something that Mighty's actually taking advantage. Mighty can actually take these fights right now until Zerg continues to take more upgrades. Yes, +2 carapace is finished, +3 ranged attack is finished, but these Zerglings, if he's going to use these Zerglings as the bulk of his army, they're just not able to do enough damage right now. These Dragoons with the +2 armor are only taking, as you can see, 2 damage from these Zerglings. It's just not enough. Now here's a really good attack here from the Zerg, pinning this Protoss force up here against the wall. The Storms are very, very good though. Managed to pick up a lot of the Zerglings, and it was a pretty even, cost-efficient attack here. And now Reavers are also out. They're going to be able to hit underneath this Darkstorm as well. And Mighty has found himself in a position where he's, able to play this game very well. Killer has not expanded. This is one thing that Killer did not do in this time when he had map control and while he had that massive supply advantage, was that he wasn't expanding to these 6th and 7th bases, whereas Mighty here is now looking to take this 5th base for himself. And he's really presenting a nice front here along this middle of the map to defend from running from his 3rd base all the way up to his 5th base, and he can try to continue to put pressure on this 4th base. Now, these 4th base, these high ground expansions for Zerg are on the lower middle count field, so they will end up mining out eventually. Here's a Defiler, really nice plague across all these Dragoons. But here come the Reavers, here come the Archons, and there's so much splash damage here from Mighty's army. And again, without those melee upgrades, it's just so hard for Killer to take these engagements. And now Mighty's actually being the aggressor here. Now, he cannot overextend himself. These Zealots coming up here are going to be wiped out by these Lurkers. He must pull back right now and present, again, a united front, wait for those energy shields to recharge on most of units. The Reavers are dropped, and the shuttle goes down. One Reaver gets killed as well. And this is where that he has to settle down, not push across too much. One Plague, ironically enough, is worth it to just plague one Reaver, because these Reavers are really the backbone of the army right now. These Reavers are so important. They're the most crucial unit of this Protoss force. Now again, Mighty has found himself in an advantageous position. Killer, I really feel like, has made a critical mistake of not investing a bit more into these upgrades. He's finally started Overload Transport and +3 carapace, but this melee upgrade still isn't being finished yet. If you're going to play this heavy Zergling style, you definitely do need more upgrades on your Zerglings. You need that +1 melee upgrade. At the very least, +1 melee upgrade. More realistic right now is that he should already be at +2 upgrades. Yeah, once again, with these very high upgraded Protoss units, +3/+3 being finished now, and now Plasma Shields are also being started, this is a scary Protoss army. Now, he needs to continue to build more Reavers from these robotics facilities. He's actually stopped right now. I think there's 2 Reavers inside the shuttle. Yes, there are 2 Reavers inside the shuttle to help break up this high ground area. He's got to be very careful. These 2 Reavers, they're not easy to replace, and so he needs to keep them alive for as long as possible, but he's doing a good job continuing to pressure into this Zerg 6th base right here. And again, it's just very difficult with all this, with all these nice upgrades here from Protoss. But again, ooh, these Reavers are gonna get sniped. One Reaver does get sniped down. He needs to continue to make sure that these Reavers don't die. These Reavers are too important to lose right now. Because right now, he actually has a position where he can actually push across this high ground expansion. Now, Killer might try to do a counterattack with these Zerglings up into the bases of the Protoss. But the army right now is definitely in favor of Mighty. Mighty has a much better army composition. And see here, more Lurkers. These Lurker eggs are actually very vulnerable right now. Storms could go across on them. There's actually 6 vulnerable Lurker eggs. There comes the first Storm. Hydra's going to have to unmorph, push across the map. So many Archons as well with this army. He's going to play this slow, nice and slow, use Storms and Reavers to really be able to crush this force. But one thing that Mighty is going to need to worry about right now is his economy. He has not taken this 5th base. This 5th base was incredibly late. As you can see, these high ground bases are very low in minerals. So you can't rely on them to maintain your economy going forward into this game. And I feel like Mighty should have taken a 5th base a little bit earlier. Nevertheless, he is taking it now. Killer on the other side has finally started that +1 attack upgrade. And this force here is going to be really scary. I don't think that Killer's going to be able to hold on to this position with how many Dragoons and Storm there's going to be. But right now, Mighty just doesn't have an economy. Mighty does not have the economy to support this army. If Killer can hold on for a little bit longer, the Reaver has gone down, the shuttle went down.
Mighty, it looks like he might be falling apart. He's running out of steam right here, and he's only really got Dragoons, and once that +1 melee upgrade finishes, I think Killer's army will be considerably better to deal with this Mass Dragoon force, and he's kind of sitting in the middle of the map here, trying to figure out what his next play is. He doesn't have that much Storm left on these High Templar. He used them to try to break through, and he failed to break through. Now his 5th base is really the only place where he can build his economy off of, but Killer, on the other hand, he's gotten his 6th base, he's held on to it, he has not lost that many drones. As we can see from the economy, Mighty has lost all steam in his push. He has now fallen behind by 50 supply. So I think these are some critical errors by both players here. Killer was losing a lot of the mid game because he didn't have good upgrades, whereas Mighty just wasn't taking a 5th base fast enough to supply his economy to make sure that he was able to solidify his position. And now with this big drop here into the back of the base, I really feel like this will be the nail in the coffin for Mighty. I don't think Mighty has enough units to defend here. I mean, he will have enough units to clean it up, but he's not trading cost efficiently. Killer, at the same time, is going to be able to grab his 7th base over here, and he's running away with the game. The 5th base finally being started, little too late, and now Killer is the one who's pushing across the map aggressively. He knows that there's only 2 mining bases left for the Protoss force, and he can continue to just permanently try to drop into these bases. Now, Mighty's trying to grab a 6th base here at the bottom, but I don't think that Killer is going to allow him to really get it. And if he does get it, he's going to be forced to drag his army down to the bottom side of the map to defend, whereas his top expansions are going to be very vulnerable. Now here comes the big engagement here, where we see plagues. Looks like a plague is trying to be built, sent out on across this army. Nice plague from Killer. And with this massive supply lead and a big economic lead, that's a lot of drones that are being transferred over to that 7th base. It's really hard for Mighty to continue to play this game. He does not have enough of an economy to support his units. At this point in the game, you should really be looking for at least, 2 full shuttles full of Reavers and more Archons. At the moment, he's got, a decent amount of Archons, but he doesn't have enough splash right now. He's forced to build Archons to deal with the swarms. Either that or he sticks with High Templar. You need a lot more gas than this for Protoss at this moment. Even these Lurker drops, yeah, they're not killing any probes, but they're still denying the mining here. And I think that a couple more of these attacks, and it's going to be end here. I think this may be the last attack from the game. I mean, we can see Killer right now pushing back across his army right now. The Reavers are getting dropped. They need to do so much damage. A great plague across the army as well, dealing so much damage to these Dragoons and the Zealots. Now, this attack will get pushed back here from Killer, but with these plagues, the army gets softened up, and he doesn't have enough of an economy to replenish this army right here. This plague not doing too much. I mean, most of the units here were already plagued. But again, the bulk of the army for Killer is just waiting in the wings. He's just waiting for better upgrades right now. As we can see, he's about to get maxed out on upgrades. 3/3 Zerglings are some of the scariest units in the entire game. Once again, just dropping these Lurkers back here to attack. And he ended up getting 8 kills on this Lurker. So he is running out of probes. As we can see, 34 probes now. I mean, not that he has many bases to work off of. But he's also denied this 6th base. And Killer is just draining the Protoss army out of any resources. He's not able to replenish his army. Here come the Cracklings with a really nice upgrade advantage right now. Swarms coming across the army. Only 1 Reaver to defend for splash damage. The Storms are really good here from Mighty. He's doing some excellent storming. But Killer could trade, even if it's inefficiently. Killer is now playing almost that Sauron style of Zerg, where I'm just going to send waves and waves and waves of units at you, and eventually you're going to break because you don't have enough of an economy to continue replenishing our army, whereas I am now taking my 8th base. And here comes the Protoss army trying to get up on top of this base here to try to secure it at some point, but he is putting himself in a dangerous position where if he puts his army in this area, he is going to end up getting surrounded, and that's exactly what Killer is positioning to do. We can see that Killer, here his army is, he's going to try to go for this big surround, and this army is getting pinned up against this wall right here. These Zerglings and Hydras are getting a nice surround here. Nice micro from Killer on both sides of this army. He's getting a nice surround with an 70 supply lead at this point, and there's just not much that Mighty can do without a big enough army, without enough resources. It looks like that this will be the last hurrah for this Protoss army. And Killer is going to end up taking this series 2-0. That's going to be it. Mighty GG's. And that was a very well-played series from both players. Mighty, realizing that his army was actually stronger than Killer's because of the upgrade advantage, was very powerful. And Killer made, I think he made a little bit of of a mistake there in the mid game. I really think that as a Zerg player, especially when you have such a strong economy like he did, you should be dropping down that third evolution chamber and just picking up those upgrades on those Zerglings. And that's one of the reasons why his army was so scared of Mighty's army, was because he didn't have those melee upgrades. I mean, if you think about it, +2 armor Dragoons are 3 armor, whereas Zerglings only do 5 damage. You're only doing 2 damage to those Dragoons. Normally with Cracklings, Dragoons are scared of Zerglings, but without those upgrades, Dragoons can shrug it off. But in the end, Killer played a very nice game. I think that Mighty should have done a little bit more damage, or at least expanded behind his pressure. He didn't. He only expanded a couple times behind the pressure, grabbing the mineral only foot base, and was unable to grab those crucial gas bases to replenish his army with Reavers and Archons. So that's going to be it. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you for watching StarCastTV, and I'll see you guys next time.